On January 30th, 2024, I tried to call my uncle, only to find that his number had been disconnected. When I went over to his house the same day, nobody answered the door, and I saw a car that I didn't recognize parked in his garage. Come to find out, my parents had dumped him in a retirement home over a year earlier, and they never bothered to tell me. Many abusers attempt to isolate their victims from family members as a means of maintaining control. Rather than jumping to conclusions, I decided to call my parents and give them a chance to explain why they had moved my uncle without telling me where he was.
The thing I was having trouble processing was, we were in therapy for 6 months. We were emailing for 6 months, and no one ever told me that my uncle had gone to Pinecrest. When I figured it out, it was a little concerning to me, really. And I don't want to assume ill intent, and I just need your help in figuring out how to process that.
Well, the part of it stemmed from the fact that it was pretty much all. Basically, Ross's eye trouble started a few weeks after end of August, beginning of September. His eye troubles were in October. Basically, was the beginning of that. And so he had been in Pinecrest and happily, it settled in for about 4 months, I guess. I don't recall you asking anything about Ross, and so I guess we just didn't. So,
In case you didn't think that excuse was flimsy enough, they've got plenty more where that came from. Like many IT workers, I ended up losing my job in early 2023. I had cut all contact with my parents in late 2022 because they had abused me, continued to degrade me, and refused to take responsibility for their actions or the long-term effects. To be fair, they did support me for a short time, but they decided they would stop at the end of January 2024, claiming that I wasn't taking care of myself. When I asked them why they felt I wasn't taking care of myself, they indicated they'd heard a rumor that I looked too skinny. Aside from the fact that their reasoning was despicable, it didn't make any sense. I need money to buy food, and I need food to gain weight. But if I didn't gain weight, they weren't going to send me money. The amount they were sending in 2023 was too low to allow me to gain weight. I ended up spending most of my time laying or sitting down due to a lack of nutrition. Worse still, they continued to demand things in return, making their support a quid pro quo arrangement that was neither benevolent, out of love for their son, nor compensatory for their past wrongs.
And it takes time and work to fix those kind of things.
It does take time and work to fix those things. I agree with you. I've been in therapy. I've been to this expert, and even still, the longest I've held a job is for about 9 months. Believe me, I know there's no quick fix for this, and it has had a significant effect on me. It's taken a significant toll on my life. I could have been a lot more than I am today if so many things and such serious things hadn't occurred. I just don't know how I'm going to make it. And I don't know how I'm going to be able to sleep tonight because I'm worried about that.
Well, you know how to get your rent. I've sent instructions before, I think.
And if I give into that demand, then what? That's my worry. And I'm not trying to be harsh. That's my worry.
Well, then if you don't want to do that, then you go with your plan B.
If I ever end up in a position where I cannot pay for my basic needs due to a lack of financial support or income, my plan is to kill myself. I would rather die quickly in an apartment than by starvation on the streets. I had already told my therapist this, and she had already told my parents. So my parents already knew that Plan B was suicide. In other words, when my parents said, if you don't want to do that, then go with your plan B, they were really saying, if you don't want to give in to our demands, then kill yourself. My uncle and my life are not the only hostages in this situation. When I escaped my parents' house after the second lockdown was lifted, I had to leave a lot of my things behind. Photographs, DVDs, books, electronics, rare items that are no longer made. When I asked them for the photographs I had taken, they sent me a selection of photographs, some that were taken by me, some that weren't. They claimed they couldn't find the ones they withheld, even though they would have been in the same roles as the ones they included. When I attempted to retrieve some of my things myself, I found that they had gotten a new security system, and I didn't know the code. I then asked them to let me know ahead of time when they were planning to go on vacation so that we could make a plan for me to retrieve some of my things without any possibility of conflict or further abuse. When my therapist attempted to schedule a family session for the week of September 4th, 2023, we found out that my parents were planning to take a vacation and hadn't bothered to tell me, hadn't bothered to make a plan that would allow me to retrieve my things.
What I would suggest is we do another family session next week. Or,
Can't do next week.
okay, so maybe we
do
do,
early the following week.
we could, okay. Then
Why
what
can't
are
you do
looking
next
to?
week? I'm asking. I'm just curious.
Sorry?
Why can't you do next week?
Because of we're going out of town.
Where?
We're going to Arizona.
So you've been going on vacations.
Well, yeah.
This got brought up on our phone call in January because they claimed they hadn't been on such a vacation in the past year. Here is what they had to say.
I don't think we've been on a long trip like the January one since.
Well, you did say that you were planning to go to Arizona, was it? But they canceled it.
Fell through.
It fell through with it.
Yeah, I know.
We weren't
Well,
able to go.
I know it fell through, but I mean, you were gonna go on a vacation, and
Mhm.
well, you didn't tell me about that either, I guess.
You mean about Ross? Well, Ross wouldn't have been much help.
I mean about the
from where he's
vacation.
at, because you can't call him.
No.
I mean about
You literally.
I mean that y'all were out of town. I mean,
How did you know we were planning to go out of town if we didn't tell you?
that's just it. I mean, I didn't until you said something. Until you said that's why you couldn't schedule an appointment then.
Okay, well, so you knew.
So you knew.
Well, not until we tried to schedule an appointment with you.
Well, that's.
But you would know before we left, and that's really kind of the point.
I had asked you to let me know if you were going on vacation so that we could make a plan for me to maybe move some of my stuff out of the house. And I didn't know.
Well, never mind.
There's just a lot of questions I have that I don't know how to answer, and you don't seem too sure how to answer either, you know?
They can't seem to answer my questions because they don't want to admit that they did something wrong. They have eschewed responsibility for their actions for decades, and they're sure as hell not going to stop trying now. Keyword, trying. One good thing that came out of this call was the closest thing to an admission of wrongdoing I've ever caught on tape. Listen.
A lot of things happen that have made us all as a family not very close, and there's not a lot of trust on either side.
And there's no quick fix for it.
Yeah.
I know there's not.
Yeah. So I think that may have some or a lot to do with a lot of what you're talking about. You know, we have things too that we've done or tried to do that we thought were nice.
And to be fair, I had told you that I didn't want you, like, coming to my apartment, like, unannounced.
The things they're talking about involve trespassing. I had told them I didn't want them anywhere near my home, and they ignored the boundary I'd set. In December of 2021, my grandfather was in the hospital with respiratory issues. My parents told me they wanted to come over to my place to exchange Christmas gifts. I told them if they really wanted to drop off some gifts, I was okay with that, but it needed to be a contactless delivery. I had been door dashing earlier that week, and I didn't want to risk spreading COVID in case one of my customers had given it to me. After I opened my front door to retrieve my gifts, my mom pushed past me and my dad followed her. I backed up to try and maintain social distance, but by then it was too late. They wouldn't leave my apartment for almost an hour, and my grandfather died from COVID less than 2 months later. If I could go back and do it over, I would have had my gun in my hand when my parents came to visit me. That's why I didn't want them anywhere near me. Not only did they abuse me, they may have contributed to my grandfather's death.
You know, that...
Okay, I don't want to get into parsing words.
Translation, she wants to avoid the conversation because she wants to avoid responsibility. In fact, their avoidant behavior persisted through the end of the call when I tried to get them to put 2 and 2 together.
Did it ever occur to you that the reason I have trouble holding down a job is because of things that happened? Those things that made it so that we as a family weren't as close anymore? Those things that eroded our trust in one another?
I'm sorry, I had to step away. The plumber called.
I don't think we're getting anywhere.
Okay.
We're just going round in circles.
Yeah.
At any rate.
No responsibility. None. I'm not hearing any.
Okay. We're going to go eat and get on with our evening.
Well, you enjoy your big house with your plentiful food and your nice things, and I'll just sit here and try to figure out how I'm going to survive without being steamrolled.
Okay. Bye.
Those are my parents. When they do something wrong, they don't want to talk about it. When their only child has a problem that was caused by them, they just want to lock themselves away in their mansion and pretend it doesn't exist. And they've been able to do that for years because no one has taken any action against them. I've reached out to 3 lawyers and 3 agencies about this matter, and none of them will take my case. None of them will hold my abusers accountable. When I did something wrong, I was expected to come clean and apologize, to pay for any damage I caused, and make it up to anyone I affected. Yet my abusive parents refused to do the same. The abusers are living a life of luxury while their victim is struggling to make ends meet. This needs to change. Something has to be done. What do you think should be done about this? What should the police do? What should the lawyers do? What should I do? What would you do if you lived in my town? What would you do if you lived in my parents' town? What can you do from where you are right now? Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not.